Hey guys, Louie here. I'm just on my ride home from work, and it occurred to me that I've never really told you much about myself, and I thought that I might take a minute and just let you know what my background is and when I got involved in precious metals and how old my channel is and stuff like that. So if you want to hear that kind of thing, please stick around. Probably most of you won't, but those that do, let's go ahead and go. A little bit about Losing Louie. God, okay. I've always hesitated to do this because I really treasure the anonymity that YouTube provides, and the ability to speak our minds no matter what opinion. And many people will understand that's difficult to do in their day-to-day life, especially if they have a position of any responsibility. You start to have a responsibility to act a certain way and think a certain way, whether that be, Republican or Democrat, or law and order, or peace and doves. So I've never wanted to get too close to revealing my identity. And most people shouldn't, because somebody's going to come knock you on the head and take all your gold and silver. So let's see, when did I first get involved in coins and precious metals? Well, my first memory of coins, of course, my dad was a coin collector. And but my first memory of coins was actually finding my father's penny collection, and I imagine it would have been the early, the 1908 or something, whenever that started in the turn of the century. And one day deciding that, wow, that would buy a lot of candy, and I literally popped out every single coin in the collection. I imagine I was 8 or 9 or something like that. I was definitely in grammar school. Popped out every single penny and took that to the candy shop. And in the old days, I don't know why, but there was always a candy shop on every corner. Anyway, and I'm sure that bought just a whole bunch of candy. And I came home with a whole bunch of candy. And my dad, being a kind person, scolded me, but he didn't beat me or anything. But yeah, I cashed in his damn penny collection. Now, I cannot recall if he went down there and got it back or not. Man, I don't recall that, but I had definitely messed up. But anyway, that was my first experience learning what a collectible coin was. I remember my uncle who left me my first stack, small stack. My uncle used to have a trunk full of Indian head pennies, and I would always say, "Wow, should we sell those?" And he'd be like, "No, it's not time yet." And you know what? He never did sell those. Well, as far as I know, I don't know who got them, but I don't think he ever did sell them. I think probably his wife stole them in the divorce, honestly. But those would have been worth a fortune. He also collected Morgans, and he collected halves. And anyway, my first collection came from him. When I was in my 50s. And it had a whole bunch of Morgans and other cool constitutional and just silver dimes and quarters and whatnot. But a good little trunk full, and that got me going on categorizing and seeing what was valuable and buying the airtights. And it was just all kind of just a silly beginning to the hobby. I wasn't really doing anything of any value. I was just adding capsules to the collection to keep them nice, but that was coins, and I started collecting Morgans in earnest at that time, and I do have a collection now, a very incomplete collection, but I suspect everyone's Morgan collection is very incomplete, right? But But anyway, that was the first time I really got interested in coins. Another point that kind of drove me in the direction of the collections that I have is that when my wife's my wife's grandfather died, she inherited a bunch of coins, and we were responsible to go sell them and split up the proceeds and whatnot. Anyway, we went about that task, and that was when I learned that you could have a collection of rare coins, but if the quality is poor, you might as well not have bothered. So that's why in trying to sell things, you don't want to ever sell poor quality anything, unless the date is so rare that okay, if it's a Carson City or something. But anyway, yeah, I learned that don't collect crap. If you're going to collect something worth collecting, and that's why I try to do higher grade coins when I do coins. But I don't really do much in slabs anymore unless it is my Morgans. But the first time I learned about putting away wealth was right before I got married. I decided to take $5,000, I think it was, and put it all into Krugerrands. I think it bought 8 Krugerrands at the time. Anyway, and I stashed that away, and I thought that, that would be, marriage can be a kind of a scary thing, especially for a guy who is responsible for the family. It's a lot of pressure. So I thought, that would be whatever trouble we got into. I bet 8 Krugerrands would probably get us out of it. And that's kind of why I started doing that. Unfortunately, that experience did not end that well, because I kept those Krugerrands for 10 years. And I'm still married to the same person. And we never needed to cash them in, luckily. But I kept those Krugerrands for 10 years. And when I sold them, all I got back was my original investment. And I could look up the years if you really want to know. But that's when I decided that stacking, precious metals, resulted in parking money for a long period of time. And I was young enough to still want to be in the stock market, and, wound up to be one of the poorest investments I ever made for those 10 years. And, not unlike the last 5 years that I've been on YouTube, because, prices haven't changed much over the last 5 years, and they haven't changed at all over the last 10 years. But nonetheless, I learned, the pitfalls of stacking as well. Okay, so moving forward, I really didn't think about stacking or collecting very much until, I don't know, I stumbled on a YouTube video, and I think it was it was one of 3 people. It was either Big Stack McGee, or it was this dude, Svensky. He hasn't been around for a little while, but he was a good deep thinker. And Big Stack was just a good old shiny stacker. And the third person I saw was Salivate Metal. And you know what? The video opening, and I hadn't watched many videos at all, maybe a couple, but then I saw this Salivate Metal video come on, and this dude is like spitting coins out of his mouth. And I thought to myself, well, hell, if you can do that on YouTube and have a good channel, then you can do pretty much anything, and you can pretty much say anything, and you can pretty much be as silly as you want to be, or as opinionated as you want to be. And I thought, that really fits my personality. So I thought I would make my first video at that point, because it felt like a safe place. So not sure if I've told that to Sal, but yeah, that is one of the reasons that I started. And there were other people that were doing the business thing, since I am a businessman. They were buying and selling, and watching the mintages and watching the resale market, and using those profits to build their stack more quickly. And I just thought that was the smartest thing ever. And I'd always sold stuff on eBay. In fact, I've been selling stuff since I was 10 years old. My dad being retired and a widow, we would try to make money by going to the swap meet. And we actually would find things to sell at the swap meet that we picked up on trash night. So I grew up poor, kind of in a ghetto-ish area. And we would go out on trash night and look for stuff to sell. And, we would go through we'd ride our bicycles, and we'd have like gunny sacks on the back. My dad was an Italian immigrant. And we'd find stuff. We'd put them in those gunny sacks. We'd ride home, and we'd go to the Rhodium swap meet. That's in LA on Saturdays or Sundays. And we would sell that stuff. And I started selling at a very early age, and it really wasn't long before I was making pretty good money doing it. And although I rarely got a toy as a kid, it wasn't long before I was getting any toy I wanted, because I was just kind of good at that, right? Just kind of shucking and jiving and buying stuff and reselling it. And anyway, I know what poor feels like, and I worked pretty hard to become not poor, as I think everybody should. I was selling at an early age and trading toys, and anyway, that's where I got the fever for buying and selling things. And there were some channels on YouTube that were all about the business side of the hobby, right? There's the sparkly and emotional side of the hobby, stacking big stacks of silver and, gold and being like a leprechaun and stuff. But with a business mind frame, and they're not getting married to it, and they're selling, they're trading, they're optimizing, right? And I always appreciated that, so I followed a lot of channels that kind of did that as well, and I really enjoyed that. And then I started pouring after a while, after watching a channel, Colonel 1947, the person that taught me how to pour silver by watching his videos. He was it. He was number one. He was all there was, guys. I mean, if there were other channels doing it, they were probably more jewelry channels and stuff. So, go over there to the Colonel and pay your respects, because he was pouring silver on YouTube before anybody, okay? Before Hi-Ho Silver and before Backyard Bullion and all the other guys. The contemporaries, Mr. Colonel 1947 was using his torch, and he was melting it up, and he was pouring skulls, and I just thought that was so bitchin', and I wanted to do that too. So I watched him and bought myself a propane torch for $160. Propane air, that's what I use. And got some fire bricks and some crucibles. And my first pour, which some people have actually, was I think it was an 8-gram silver gun. 8 grams, something like that. And I sent those all over the world, the first ones I made. But I remember I was in full regalia. I had on like the smock, the long gloves, the helmet, the glasses, my boots, long pants. Okay, I was melting 8 grams of silver at a time, but I was fully expecting it to blow up in my face, which it never did. And anyway, now I kind of pour in flip-flops. Don't do that. Anyway, guys, so that's what leads me to the current time and place. I don't know. I think I will stop there, because, wow, this has been a lot longer than it should have been, and you have no business listening to it, but that is a little bit about me. Bye now.